Democratic member of the Foreign Relations Judiciary Committee, Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. Senator Coons, I can't state this enough. I mean, Scott Bessent had sort of some snide, derogatory comments about the way Europeans conduct business. It's something I hear throughout the administration. It seems this constant refrain that all Europeans do is talk and take meetings. Europe's GDP last year was as big as China's. You combine ours and Europe's, and we have half of the globe's GDP. I'm curious, why does this administration have such contempt for an economic powerhouse that not only helped us beat the Soviet Union, but will help us outpace China in the years to come?
I couldn't agree more, Joe. We are picking a fight. President Trump is picking a fight that will have enormous costs for the United States in our security and our prosperity, and for nothing. Over an enormous piece of rock and ice in the Arctic Ocean, a place 3 times the size of Texas with very few people, where there are no credible current security threats, and there's really very little prospect of economic development in the future. Trump is doing this really as a vanity project to try and add to his record another piece on the risk game board. But it is, in fact, threatening our relationships with NATO, our relationships with the EU, countries that have served and sought and sacrificed alongside us in Afghanistan and Iraq, countries that are a part of our prosperity and our economic future. There are real threats, Russia and China, but they're not threatening Greenland. We are. And I am hopeful that President Trump will still yet hear from European leaders, from business leaders, that this is a stupid risk and he needs to step aside from driving this further in this pointless pursuit of Greenland.
So, Senator Coons, let's talk a little bit more about exactly that. It's not just Denmark he's threatening. Denmark, of course, controls Greenland. It's a number of other European nations. He's already imposed tariffs on countries that oppose his bid to acquire Greenland. He pointedly will not rule out using military force. Just speak to us, if you will. Give us that warning. If he follows through, what would that mean for the safety and security, not just of Europe, but frankly, for the United States?
Right. This is not about Greenland. It's not about Denmark. It's about us. It's about the United States. It's about whether we are a trustworthy ally. If we violate the NATO treaty and we literally take military action against Greenland and Denmark, why would any country trust us? Why would Australia or Korea or Japan trust us? Why would the Ukrainians trust our security guarantee? Why would the Taiwanese trust that we might come to their defense? It would impact our reliability as a country to invest in, to do business with, to develop security with. The only people who are celebrating Trump's fixation on Greenland right now are Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. This is creating a huge opening for them by creating a widening divide between the United States and Europe. Prime Minister Carney of Canada just came back from China, where he opened a new chapter in their relationship between Xi Jinping and PM Carney. That's a clear signal that one of our closest, most important allies, Canada, has gotten fed up with the tariff threats and the threats to make Canada the 51st state, and they're pursuing other options. We need to hear this moment clearly and stand up and push back on this pointless pursuit of Canada by President Trump.
Senator Coons, you are one of 100 members of what has often been described as the greatest deliberative body in the world, the United States Senate. Do you have any explanation for why today so many members of the United States Senate, largely Republican, but some Democrats as well, remain silent about things that are going on every day by a dominant president of the United States who is changing the country around us, who is changing the America that most people are familiar with?
Look, Mike, folks who are watching ICE's actions in Minneapolis, who are concerned about military adventurism overseas, have grave concerns about what's going on. Democratic attorneys general across the country have brought more than 500 lawsuits to stop or slow President Trump's aggressive agenda, and they've won 3/4 of them. Members of the Senate are speaking up, but not enough. We need more members of the Republican Party to agree that President Trump's overreach by misusing his tariff powers, that President Trump's threats to our security by threatening NATO are not in our country's best interest, are not in our constituents' best interest. I just led a bipartisan delegation to Denmark, 10 members, House and Senate, and it was heartbreaking. The last thing we did was to lay a wreath at the memorial to the Danes who served and fought alongside Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan. What do their families think now of the rhetoric that they're hearing from Washington? It concerns me gravely, and we need more colleagues to be clear, publicly and privately, that this is going to harm our security and our prosperity, not advance it.
Democratic member of the Foreign Relations and Judiciary Committee, Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, live from Davos. Thank you.